The moment my son's bride screamed at me to get out of here! During their wedding ceremony, I felt my heart shatter into pieces. Imagine standing there, dressed in your best clothes, watching your only child tie the knot, and suddenly, you become the villain in front of hundreds of guests. I froze, staring at her trembling lips as she shouted those words, her face red with anger. Everyone turned toward me gasping. My son didn't even say a word. He just looked down. So I did what she said. I walked out of that wedding hall with tears streaming down my face. But what none of them expected is that I didn't leave alone. Tell me, was I wrong for walking away with the truth that destroyed everything that day? My name is Linda. I'm 54 years old, a single mother who raised her son, Adam, all on her own. His father left us when Adam was just 3, and from that day forward, it was just me and him against the world. I worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table, sold jewelry to pay for his college, and skipped meals so he could have lunch money. Adam was my entire world. I didn't just raise him. I built my life around him. He was kind, respectful, and hardworking. I thought I did everything right as a mother. When Adam brought home his girlfriend, I was thrilled at first. Her name was Chloe, a beautiful young woman, smart and ambitious, with a sweet smile that could light up a room. She was polite during our first few meetings, though there was something about her that always felt off. She seemed overly charming when Adam was around, but cold and distant when it was just the 2 of us. I brushed it off as nerves. After all, meeting your boyfriend's mom can be intimidating. Months went by, and Chloe started spending more time at our house. She would occasionally drop comments that stung, like, "Wow, this place is so old-fashioned," or, "Adam, don't you think your mom should relax a little and let us handle things?" I tried to stay quiet. I didn't want to create problems for my son. I figured maybe she just had a different upbringing. But deep down, something told me Chloe didn't like me. One night, while Adam was working late, Chloe came over to drop off something for him. I was in the kitchen baking his favorite pie, and she walked in without even knocking. "You really don't need to try so hard to impress him, you know?" she said with a smirk. "He's already mine." I froze. Her tone was venomous, her eyes full of arrogance. I asked her what she meant, and she said, "Oh, come on, Linda. You're just a little too much sometimes. Adam doesn't need a second mom in our relationship. You should start stepping back." It hurt. But again, I stayed silent. I didn't want to ruin things for Adam. He loved her, and I wanted him to be happy, even if it meant swallowing my pride. Eventually, they got engaged. Adam proposed in the same restaurant where his father once promised me forever. Life really has a cruel sense of irony. As the wedding approached, I offered to help with the arrangements, but Chloe made it clear I wasn't needed. She told me, "It's our day, Linda. You've had your time." That one sentence made me feel invisible. I told Adam how I felt, but he just sighed and said, "Mom, please, don't start anything. Chloe's just stressed." So, I kept my mouth shut. I stayed out of the way. I showed up for dress fittings, for rehearsals, for everything she invited me to, even when I felt like a guest in my own son's life. Then came the wedding day. I woke up early, got dressed in a soft blue gown, Adam's favorite color, and arrived at the hall with pride. Seeing my son standing there in his tuxedo made my heart swell. I thought, this is it. My boys finally found happiness. But I didn't know that happiness was about to turn into heartbreak. During the ceremony, everything seemed perfect. The guests were smiling, music was playing, and the priest began the vows. Then came the moment when the priest asked if anyone objected. Before anyone could even breathe, Chloe suddenly turned toward me. Her expression twisted into something dark, something no one else saw before. She pointed at me and yelled, "Get out of here!" The room went silent. Every single head turned toward us. "What?" I managed to whisper. She repeated it, louder this time. I said, "Get out of here! You've ruined everything! You've been trying to control Adam since day one! You can't let him go, can you? You're pathetic!" People gasped. Cameras stopped recording. My son's face turned pale. I looked at Adam, expecting him to defend me, but he just stood there, silent. That silence hurt more than her words. Tears filled my eyes as I took a deep breath. held my head high, and said, "If that's what you want, I'll leave." And I did. I walked out of that hall with everyone's eyes following me. But here's the thing. What they didn't know was that I wasn't leaving quietly. A week before the wedding, I had accidentally overheard a phone conversation between Chloe and someone named Ryan. She was in the backyard, pacing and whispering. I only caught a few words. "Don't worry, after the wedding, I'll have access to his account. He won't even notice." I couldn't believe it. My instincts told me to investigate. So, I checked her social media, and what I found made my stomach turn. Ryan wasn't just a friend. He was her ex-boyfriend. And based on their messages, they were still very much together. I printed everything, screenshots, call logs, and even a few voice recordings I managed to capture from that night. I confronted Chloe privately a few days before the wedding. I told her to come clean to Adam before he ruined his life. She laughed in my face and said, "You're just jealous your son found someone better than you." I told her I'd tell Adam myself, but she said if I did, she'd turn him against me forever. So I decided to wait, for the right moment, and that moment came during the wedding. So yes, I walked out, but I wasn't alone. I had Ryan with me. Ryan showed up at the venue just minutes before the ceremony, demanding to talk to Chloe. Turns out, she had promised him money after the wedding, but she ghosted him. He found my number from one of the screenshots I had posted on a private forum asking for advice, and he reached out to me that morning. When he showed me his phone full of messages and voice notes, I knew everything I needed to know. So as Chloe screamed for me to leave, I turned to Ryan, nodded, and said, "Let's go." Everyone watched as I walked out with her secret lover. The silence in that room was deafening. Outside, Ryan and I talked to the wedding coordinator and handed over all the evidence. Within minutes, chaos erupted inside. Guests started whispering. Adam rushed out to find me, his face pale as a ghost. "Mom, what's going on?" he asked, breathless. I looked him in the eyes and said, "You need to see this, son." I handed him my folder full of screenshots and proof. He flipped through it, and I watched the color drain from his face. "Please tell me this isn't true," he whispered. "I wish I could, Adam," I said. "But it is." He stormed back inside, straight to the altar, and confronted Chloe in front of everyone. The music stopped. She tried to deny it, but when Ryan walked in, her entire facade crumbled. Guests gasped as she broke down, begging for forgiveness. Adam threw the ring on the floor and said, "You told my mother to get out, but you're the one who doesn't belong here." That moment, seeing my son finally stand up for himself, was bittersweet. He looked at me across the hall and said, "I'm sorry, Mom. You were right." I could barely hold back my tears. I didn't want to be right. I just wanted him to be happy. The wedding was called off on the spot. Guests slowly left, whispering about the scandal. I went home that night feeling both heartbroken and relieved. My son came home hours later, exhausted and broken. He hugged me tightly and said, "I should have listened to you." I told him, "No, son. You had to see it for yourself." For weeks, Adam was depressed. Losing the person you thought was your forever isn't easy. But slowly, he started to heal. He went back to work, focused on himself, and eventually met someone new, someone genuine. Her name's Emily. She's kind, respectful, and treats me like her own mother. When Adam introduced us, she said, "Mrs. Taylor, I've heard so much about you. I hope I can be half as strong as you one day." And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. You know, that day at the wedding, when Chloe screamed at me in front of everyone, I thought I'd lost my son. But in a strange way, that moment brought us closer than ever. It reminded him who was really by his side when the world turned its back. And it reminded me that no matter how much you love someone, sometimes you have to let them make their own mistakes, to learn the truth themselves. So that's the situation I was in, and that's what I did. But before I go on, I want to ask you, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have exposed her before the wedding, or waited like I did? Comment below and tell me what you think. As for me, I don't regret leaving that day. I left with my dignity, my self-respect, and the truth. And even though that moment broke me, it also rebuilt me. I realized that being a mother isn't about protecting your child from every heartbreak. It's about standing behind them when their world falls apart. Now, whenever I think about that day, I don't feel anger anymore. I just feel grateful that the truth came out when it did. Adam and I still joke sometimes about it. He says, "Mom, remind me to let you handle background checks next time." And I laugh, because even though it hurt, it also reminded both of us what real love looks like: honest, unconditional, and loyal. So tell me, after everything you've heard, was I wrong for walking out of my son's wedding that day? Or did I do what any mother would have done? If you were on my side, hit that like button. Subscribe for more true, emotional stories like this one, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.